Never thought I'd spend a 4th of July figuring out how to help my daughter-in-law disappear. That sounds dramatic. It was dramatic. But let me start from the beginning, because the beginning is where I almost missed everything. My son Brennan had been with Cassidy for 2 years before he finally brought her to our family reunion in Asheville. We do it every year at my sister Luann's property. A big spread of land with a covered porch, picnic tables, the works. My grandchildren run through the sprinklers, my brother-in-law burns something on the grill, and everyone talks too loud and stays too long. I love it. It's the one weekend all year where time slows down and I remember what matters. Brennan drove up from Charlotte with Cassidy on a Friday afternoon. I was on the porch shelling butter beans when their car pulled in. She got out first, tall, sandy-haired, wearing a yellow sundress, and my first thought was that she looked like someone who'd been told to look happy, not someone who was. I filed that thought away and went to hug my son. Cassidy helped me carry dishes all weekend. She was polite in the way that takes effort. She laughed at the right moments, complimented my sister's potato salad, played with the little ones when they dragged her into their games. But there was a quality to her presence, a kind of constant readiness, like she was always slightly braced for something. I'm 67 years old. I taught middle school English for 32 years. I have seen every variety of child trying to hold themselves together in a situation they didn't choose. Cassidy had that same look, the one where the body is present but the mind is somewhere else, doing math. Saturday evening, after the fireworks and before the cleanup, I found her alone in Luann's kitchen washing dishes that didn't need to be washed. The rest of the family was outside. I could hear Brennan laughing at something my brother-in-law said. "You don't have to do those," I told her. "We have a system. Everything goes in the garage and gets dealt with tomorrow. I don't mind." She scrubbed a casserole dish that was already clean. I leaned against the counter. "How's work going? Brennan said you'd been promoted." Her hand slowed. "I turned it down, actually." "Really?" He didn't mention that. It would have meant travel. We're trying to be in the same place for once. She said it quickly, the way you say something you said many times before. Practiced. Sealed. I handed her a dish towel and she dried her hands, and that's when I noticed the bruise. Just inside her wrist, mostly faded, greenish yellow, the color of a healing thing. She saw me see it and pulled her sleeve down. "Cabinet door," she said. I nodded like I believed her. I didn't. Sunday morning, I woke up early the way I always do now, joints aching, the birds going crazy outside the window. I came downstairs for coffee and found Cassidy already at the kitchen table, phone in both hands, face tight. I poured my cup and sat across from her without asking permission. Sometimes at my age you just sit. She tilted the phone away from me, but not before I saw the screen. A string of messages, all from Brennan's name. I couldn't read them from that distance, but I could see the pattern. Message after message after message, the kind of volume that means something is wrong. "Early riser?" I asked. "Couldn't sleep." "Where's Brennan?" "Still in bed." She set the phone face down on the table. I wrapped both hands around my mug. Outside, a woodpecker started up on one of the old oaks. I let the silence do its work. "He texts a lot," I finally said. "Not a question." She looked at me. Her eyes were gray, steady, guarded. "He worries." "About what?" "About me. About where I am." She paused. "He loves me a lot." I have heard those exact words before. The intonation, the particular flatness underneath them, like a sentence someone has decided to keep believing through sheer force of will. "I'm sure he does," I said. She picked up her coffee. Her sleeve slipped and I saw her wrist again. "Cassidy." I kept my voice low even. "I'm not going to pretend I didn't see your wrist last night." The color drained from her face. "It was a cabinet. Honey, I'm 67 years old and I have had a cabinet door bruise. That's not what that looks like." She stared at her coffee. A long, still moment. "He doesn't mean to," she said finally. Barely above a whisper, I felt something crack open in my chest. Not surprise. Grief. The specific grief of recognizing something you'd hoped you were wrong about. Does it happen often? She shook her head, but the motion was uncertain, like she was genuinely trying to calculate. It's only when he's really stressed. He's under a lot of pressure at work. And I don't always. I say things wrong sometimes. I provoke him without meaning to. I set my mug down. Look at me. She did. You do not provoke someone into hurting you. That is not how that works. That is not how any of this works. Her chin trembled. She pressed her lips together to stop it. He checks on me, she said, because he loves me. He wants to know where I am, who I'm with. He reads my messages. He says it's because he's been hurt before and he has trouble trusting. She was speaking faster now, the words coming like she'd rehearsed them, like they were a raft she was holding on to. And I understand that. His ex did a number on him, and I knew that going in. I just have to be more patient. We're working on it. Whose idea was it for you to turn down the promotion? Silence. Did you want to turn it down? She opened her mouth, closed it, looked at the table. Cassidy, when you picture your life a year from now, 5 years from now, what do you see? She didn't answer right away. I waited. The woodpecker kept on with the oak tree. I see us in a house, she finally said. A real one, not the apartment. He talks about it all the time. We'd have a yard and a dog, and eventually, she stopped. I'd be happy, I think, if things settled down. And your friends? Your family? She looked at me then, and something shifted in her expression, a hairline crack in the careful surface. My sister and I don't really talk anymore, she said. Brennan felt like she was creating tension between us. She said some things about him, and I had to choose. She swallowed. I chose him. Do you miss her? She pressed the back of her hand against her mouth, nodded. What about your friends from before? Most of them faded out. It just got complicated. Brennan doesn't love me going out without him, especially at night. It's easier to stay in. We like being together. I thought about that cabinet door bruise. I thought about the string of messages on her phone at 7 in the morning when he was allegedly still asleep. I thought about the way she flinched the afternoon before when he put his hand on her shoulder. Just a split second, barely perceptible, but I'd seen it. I have to tell you something, I said, and I need you to hear it from me specifically, not from someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. She looked at me with those careful gray eyes. I was married before Brennan's father. I've never told Brennan this. I was 23, and I married a man who I believed loved me more than anyone ever had. He was attentive and devoted, and for the first year, it felt like being the most important person in the world. I paused. By the second year, I needed his permission to call my mother. By the third year, I had stopped telling him things, where I'd been, who I'd talked to, not because I was hiding anything, but because telling him created problems, and not telling him created different problems, and there was no version of my life that felt safe. Cassidy was very still. It was never a pattern of physical harm. Once. There was once. But there was a kind of harm that doesn't leave marks. The kind that makes you revise yourself down to nothing. I left after 4 years. I had to rebuild from scratch. I was 37 before I stopped second-guessing every decision I made. She was crying. Silently, the way people cry when they've had practice at not being heard. Brennan isn't like that, she said, but her voice was hollow. He might not be exactly like that, I said carefully. But Cassidy, the messages, the wrist, the promotion, your sister, your friends, those things are not separate. Those things are a picture. She pressed her palms flat on the table like she needed to feel something solid. I can't leave, she said. We have a lease together. He co-signed my car loan. He would, she shook her head. He'd be so angry. I don't know what he'd do. I know. I said it gently. That's exactly what I said. Word for word. I know. She looked at me for a long time. What did you do? She asked. I found one person I trusted completely. And I made a plan. We sat there in Luan's kitchen while the house slowly woke around us. The sound of my brother-in-law's boots on the floor above us, my sister's radio coming on in another room, a grandchild calling out for someone, normal Sunday morning sounds. Life going on at its ordinary pace while this conversation cracked the world open. Your sister, I said. What's her name? Petra. Do you think, if you reached out right now, she would answer? Cassidy looked at her phone on the table, then at me. I don't know. I said terrible things when we stopped talking. Brennan told me what to say, and I said them. Brennan isn't on this porch. She stared at the phone for a long moment. Then she picked it up and walked to the far end of the kitchen, near the window, and stood with her back to me. I heard her voice low and unsteady. Petra? It's me. I know. I'm so sorry. Can you talk? I went and stood in the doorway between the kitchen and the hall. If Brennan came downstairs, he would have to get past me first. I am 67 years old and not particularly imposing, but I have spent 32 years standing in doorways. The call lasted 12 minutes. When Cassidy came back to the table, something had shifted in her face. Not resolved. Nothing was resolved, but less suspended. Like a person who had been holding a breath for a very long time and had finally, carefully, let some of it out. She wants me to come home, Cassidy said. She's in Richmond. She said I can stay as long as I need to. Okay, I said. Let's make a plan. We spent the next 40 minutes talking through the practical pieces, the ones nobody wants to think about but which matter enormously. The car loan, the lease, what to pack and what could be replaced, whichever things were irreplaceable and where they were in the apartment. I had a friend who'd spent years as a family law attorney before she retired. I would call her this week, get Cassidy some names in Charlotte. What do I tell Brennan, she asked. Today? Nothing. You tell him nothing today. Today you act exactly as you have been acting. When you get back to Charlotte, you make the first move when he's at work and you have a window. You do not do it when he's home. You do not leave a note. You call Petra and she comes with someone, or you go to her. You do not do this alone. She was nodding, but her eyes were filling again. He's going to say I overreacted, that I blew up our relationship over nothing. He's going to call everyone we know. He probably will, I said. I won't lie to you about that. And what do I say to all of them? You don't owe anyone an explanation. But if it helps, the people who matter will understand eventually. The people who don't understand were never really in your corner. She was quiet for a moment. And you? What do you tell Brennan? He's your son. I had been thinking about this, dreading it and thinking about it at the same time. I tell him the truth, I said. When the time is right, I tell him that I love him, that I will always love him, and that what he is doing to you is wrong, and I will not pretend otherwise. And then I tell him that if he wants a relationship with me, he needs to get help, real help, not to get you back, for himself. She looked at me like she couldn't quite make sense of what she was seeing. You'd do that to your own son. I'd do that for my own son, I said. Because loving someone means you don't let them become something they can't come back from if you can help it. She reached across the table and covered my hand with hers. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. The rest of that Sunday was its own particular kind of hard. Watching Brennan at breakfast, joking with my brother-in-law, teasing my grandchildren, being charming and easy and everything he'd always been at family gatherings. I looked at my son, 34 years old, someone I had loved every day of his life, and I tried to hold both things at once. The boy who used to crawl into bed with me after thunderstorms, and the man who sent his girlfriend strings of messages at 7 in the morning while she sat alone at a kitchen table in the dark. Both things were true. I had to let them be true. Cassidy was careful all day. Careful in the way I recognized from that first morning, but now I knew what it was. She was protecting a secret, and the secret had given her something to stand on. They left late Sunday afternoon. I hugged Brennan at the car, held him a beat longer than usual. Everything okay, Mom? He pulled back and looked at me. I love you, I said. Call me this week. He grinned. You and your check-ins. He kissed my cheek and got in the car. Cassidy hugged me last. She was trembling slightly. I held on. "You have my number," I said quietly into her ear. "Any hour." She nodded against my shoulder, and then she got in the passenger seat, and I stood in the Juan's gravel driveway and watched my son's car drive away, and I did not cry until I was back inside. Luan found me in the kitchen. "What happened?" she asked. She knows me too well for pretending. "I think Brennan is hurting Cassidy," I said. She sat down heavily. "Oh, Lord." I think I helped her find a way out. I looked at my hands. "I hope I did. And Brennan? I don't know yet." 11 days later, Cassidy texted me from a number I didn't recognize. "I'm at Petra's. I'm safe. I took what I needed. The locks are changed. Thank you." I sat with that message for a long time before I wrote back. That same evening, I called Brennan. He already knew. Cassidy had sent him a message, something brief and clear, and now he was at the apartment that was suddenly half empty, and he was not handling it well. "She left," he said. "Just left. Did you know she was going to do this? Did you say something to her at Luan's?" "Yes," I said. "I did." The silence on the other end had a particular quality. I recognized it. "You had no right, Brennan." I kept my voice steady. "I saw her wrist." He went quiet. "I saw your message on her phone, and I heard her tell me she gave up a promotion and her sister and her friends, and that she doesn't know what you'd do if she left." I paused. "I'm not going to tell you what you are or aren't. I'm not going to catalog every specific thing. I'm going to tell you what I told her, that I love you, that I will always love you, and that what I heard and saw is not how love works. She's sensitive. She misreads things. I'm not some kind of monster mom. I know you're not a monster. I raised you. I know exactly who you are." My voice broke a little, and I let it. "That's exactly why I'm telling you this, because I know who you can be, and I need you to get help before you lose that person entirely." He hung up. I held the phone in my lap for a while. The house was quiet. My husband had known something was wrong all week. He's perceptive that way, and he came and sat beside me without asking, which is one of the many reasons I've been grateful for him for 31 years. "Bad?" he asked. "Yes and no," I said. Brennan didn't speak to me for 6 weeks. He sent one text at Thanksgiving that said simply, "I hope you're proud of yourself." I wrote back, "I hope someday you'll understand. I love you. I'm here when you're ready." He didn't respond. Cassidy called me in January. She'd found a new apartment, a 1-bedroom near Petra's. She was back at her job. She'd taken the promotion, after all, the one she'd turned down, and her supervisor had quietly revived the offer when Cassidy asked. She sounded like someone relearning what her own voice sounded like. "How are you doing?" I asked. "Really? Some days are hard," she said. "I still flinch at certain sounds. I started seeing a therapist, and she says that's normal, that it takes time. I miss the version of him I thought he was, the early version." "I know," I said. "Because I did. Have you talked to him?" "Not since October." "He's not ready." She was quiet a moment. "I used to worry that leaving would hurt you, your relationship with your son. I felt guilty about that for a long time." "Don't," I said. "Whatever happens with Brennan is between me and Brennan. That's not yours to carry." "Still," she paused, "I think about you a lot. That Sunday morning, you just sat down across from me without asking." "I'm 67, I said. "I've stopped asking." She laughed, a real one, unguarded. It sounded like something returning. Brennan called me in February, a Sunday night late, which told me it had taken him a while to pick up the phone. He didn't say much. Mostly he asked if we could talk in person sometime soon. I said yes before he finished the sentence. We met for lunch the following week at a diner halfway between us. He looked tired in the way that means something internal has been working. He'd started seeing a therapist too, he said. It was a court-recommended thing, actually. Cassidy had eventually filed a report the one incident, and there were consequences. He wasn't contesting any of it. "I'm not calling to argue about whether it was fair," he said. "I know it was fair." I looked at my son. 34 years old, tired and honest, and sitting across from me in a booth at a diner on a gray Tuesday, which is maybe the bravest place a person can choose to be. I don't know why I did the things I did, he said. That's what I'm trying to figure out. My therapist says it'll take time. It will, I said. Were you scared to call me on it that weekend? I thought about this. Scared isn't exactly it. I was afraid of being wrong and afraid of being right, both at the same time. And then I realized the cost of staying quiet was higher than the cost of being wrong. He nodded slowly. Cassidy said you told her about your first marriage. I didn't know about that. No. I kept it from you because I was ashamed. I shouldn't have. He was quiet for a moment. Do you think I'm like him? The man you were married to? I think you did some of the same things. I don't know if you're like him. I don't know what you're like yet. That's what you're figuring out. He sat with that. We split a piece of pie at the end, and he paid the check, and we hugged in the parking lot. Not the careful hug of strangers who share blood, but something more tentative and real. The beginning of something that had to be rebuilt from different materials. I don't know how it ends. Stories like this rarely have clean endings. That's the thing no one tells you. Brennan is in therapy. Cassidy is in a safe apartment building, a life back from the ground up. The restraining order has timelines. My relationship with my son is something I'm tending the way you tend a damaged plant, carefully with no promises. Some people have told me I should have stayed out of it, that a mother takes her child's side, that Cassidy was a grown woman who could have found her own way out. Maybe. Maybe she could have. I don't know. What I know is what I saw at that kitchen table on a Sunday morning in July. A young woman with her sleeves pulled down washing coffee cups she'd already washed, waiting for a message on her phone to tell her what to feel. I know what that looks like. I know it in my body. And I have spent 30 years rebuilding myself into someone who will not look away from it again.